All right, what's up, Logan? So,
Hey man.
Logan, I gotta talk to you about something, man, and that is the market right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about how the market's cooling, and I know it's affecting. I'm already feeling the effects of it with my store. Definitely want to get into how it's affecting your store here in a
Yeah.
minute. But the million-dollar question is, man, I mean, do you think this is a full-on reset? Do you think we're sort of in a dip right now, and things will rebound?
hmm
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think there's a lot of factors at play. The past couple of months have really set the scene for this period where the market's kind of resetting. I think, y- to answer your question, no, I don't think the market is crashing like some people are claiming it is. I think it's definitely cooled down. I think the right word to use is settling, stabilizing, sort of resetting, from what we've seen over the past year, and the prices and, just the shortages of product that customers are able to or not able to get their hands on. So no, I think heading into 2026, we're going to be seeing settling of prices, a more healthy market where people are, I think, able to get more product more easily, and prices will come down closer to MSRP. I don't know if we'll see MSRP. Maybe we will for some things,
Yeah.
but I think there are a couple factors that we can get into. But that's sort of my high level take. What about you? What do you think, though?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because Ascended Heroes is a really, really good set. So, I mean, the million-dollar question is it dip just because of how, first of all, how Phantasmal Flames was a little bit, perhaps a weaker set, and
Hey,
um,
Alex. I don't think that we're live.
uh, yeah, I think we are.
The YouTube channel?
I think so. Let me give this to you.
I maybe was clicked on the wrong one. Cool. We're good.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, no. So yeah, I guess it all kind of it depends. Is it because more and more people are kind of jumping from Pokemon to One Piece? Is it because Phantasmal Flames was perhaps a weaker set, and it seems like there's been a lot more product that's been able to release for Phantasmal than some previous sets. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Ascended Heroes. I think that's going to be the true test
Sure.
because not only you know the Ascended Heroes have this super long, drawn out release schedule,
Oh,
right? So
geez.
for those that don't know, the release day is going to be super lackluster. We're getting like two different products. We're getting a tech sticker collection and a two-pack collection, and I think
Yeah.
that's it. Like ETBs are coming out a full month later. Um,
I'm
the,
hoping, with that being said, like, I'm hoping that Pokemon is printing a ton of that product so that even though
yeah,
the product itself has very few packs, that there's a ton of them out there so that, people can buy, with retail limits like one or two per person. Like, no one's able to like clean out in just a couple of people.
right. No, exactly. And I think there's a I think this is kind of a contributing factor too, and that's the printing facility that this whole thing about. I mean, there are tons of content creators that have been talking about it,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's enough of guys. When this thing opens in 2027, the sets that are coming out now will probably be completely unaffected.
Yeah.
But I do think perception matters, and I think that could be a contributing factor to what we're seeing right now with the dip. So, anyways, that's my thought. I do think Ascended Heroes will be a true test to see if we haven't hit the bottom, and or if it's gonna reset.
So, what do you think the how are you preparing as a store for this?
Yeah, so I don't think this is being talked about enough. There right now in the last year, there have been a lot of new stores that have entered into the fray. right? And it's kind of a question like, did those stores enter into the fray because they just saw a money grab, or did they enter into it because um, they're in it for the long haul? Well, if we haven't seen the bottom and prices continue to fall, then we're going to see, I think, a lot of stores that entered into the fray just because of the height and popularity we've seen the last year. I think they're going to go. I think they're going to go away.
Sure.
Um, and if that's true, let's pretend that that's true for a second, then that's going to make content creators and store owners that are in this for the long haul. It's going to create a lot of opportunity for them because there's going to be a lot less content creators that are producing content,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and the sort of it becomes kind of a numbers game, right? There's a lot less content that's getting created than when in the last year when the market was at an all-time high. Um, so I do think it's going to be beneficial for stores that are in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I think so too. Alex, I'm gonna quickly pause. So we are live, but we're live on a new video. So the video that we're live on says "Welcome to our live show," and then there's no description. Um, are you cool with that? I'm cool with it. I'm just letting you know so that we're aware of it.
Oh, that's weird. Just says "Welcome to our live show." Is that what it says?
Yeah, and
Weird.
and the we don't have a thumbnail. It's like our first.
Let me see. Oh, that's weird. So like we do have the one that's um I mean I'm fine with it for our first one if you're okay with it.
Um,
Or we can start over, whichever.
do you know how to start over to the new one? If you don't know how immediately how to do that, then we'll just keep going with this.
Mm, nah, I think it'll take a minute
Cool.
to
No worries
figure it
then.
out.
I'm good with this.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry guys, technical issues.
yeah. First time live streaming. So for
Yeah.
those that don't know, we're two online Pokemon card shops where, over the past 5 months, we've been posting a video every single week where we basically talk about, our businesses, the market, give our takes and opinions. We had this Table podcast. That's what we called ourselves. We're trying something new where we're, kind of heading into 2026, both of us thinking more about YouTube and long form content. And so we kind of decided to pivot a little bit and, start some live streaming calls between the two of us, same people, same content, same, podcast, just without that extra channel. So forgive us for this one time. We're still figuring things out. Anyways, so back to 2026 and sort of, heading into it, I think that for small businesses, I agree with 100% with what you said. I think that I think we are, concretely heading out of the phase where it's very easy to flip, and make easy profit. I think that a lot of, you know, people that were buying things out and selling it for 4 times profit, I think have become a little bit more wary of Pokemon as that. They weren't in it for the long haul. They weren't in it to, they weren't in it to understand that this is only something that you should realistically expect to make, 10, 15% on. They were
Yeah.
looking for maximum profit. I think we are heading out of that stage, and that will affect the market entirely a lot, I think. But
Mhm.
I don't think that it will cause crashing. So, for stores that were in it for that reason and flipping and things like that, I think we'll see a lot of those go away. Um, However, I do think that we're in a healthy position. I think that prices are still strong. The past couple months have been a little shaky, but if we look back past, the past 3 months, towards early 2025, middle 2025. Those sets are still strong. Those sets are still really sought after, hard to get. Um, I just think that we're in a point where there's a lot of factors at play that are pausing this hype of continuing to go up. Anyways,
Yeah.
I think the stores that are in it for the long run, uh, stay the course. You know, as advice to you and others, 2025 was wild. It was really fun. A lot of growth happened between both of our stores. I imagine a lot of growth happened for a lot of your stores as well. Um,
Yeah.
for a business point of view, though, stay the course. Pokemon is a long game, years long. So keep at it. That's what I'll say. Anyways, I think that's sort of how I feel about where we are now and where we're heading into at least early 2026. Um, do you have any other thoughts on it?
Yeah, I just think that this year in 2026, and Logan and I talk about this all the time offline. It's going to be a sort of a land of opportunity for stores that are actually in this for the long haul. Because there's going to be a lot less competition, right? There's going to be a lot of stores that close shop in 2026, so it means less competition for content. So it's going to make it easier on you to build a following, even if you know there's less buyers at first. It's going to be easier to build a following on your socials, and also, Logan, a lot less competition to get distribution. And I think that
Yeah.
if you're really in it for the long haul, okay, and look back at our previous podcasts, by the way, and we talk about this all the time. Content creation is absolutely king when it comes to running your Pokemon card store.
Yep.
So if you do that, if you stick to that regiment of content creation, and then at the same time, there are a lot less stores that are entering into the market and closing shop in 2026. It could create a window of opportunity to get distribution. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are my thoughts. So even though it could be, and we're experiencing right now for a lot of shops, it very well could be that we're going to experience a drop in sales.
Yep.
But the other coin of that is if you can make it through, and if you're really in this for the long haul, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So
Yeah. I mean, and speaking on sort of, I'll give you some transparency into my shop, over the past 2 months. So November was the best month that Zippy's Card Corner has ever had. We were just shy of 20,000 in sales alone, in Pokemon cards alone. A lot of that was brought from hype around Mega Dream EX. Um, you know, Zippy's Card Corner is a pretty much Japanese and simplified Chinese only store. And so we really ride the waves of releases. And so November was a really hot month for us, 20,000 yearly in sales. Heading into December, uh, I knew that it wouldn't be as hot as that, but I wasn't expecting for the slowdown that I saw. So to
yeah,
give you some perspective, we're what, 2 days away, 3 days away from the end of 2025 and December.
yeah,
We're probably going to close around 5,000 in sales. Mega Dream, Inferno X have both fallen off a cliff in terms
yeah,
of market price, price per box. And as a small store, it's really hard to keep up with that bottom, that lowest market price. And as a store, it's like you want to kind of be around that spot. You don't want to be selling over it. You don't want to be selling under it. You kind of want to hit for that market price, at least, as a small store. And so it's been really tough to continuously try and drop our prices to a point where we're still making, that 10 to 15% profit. And staying relevant, really. So
hmm
December slowed down a lot. I'm excited for January. I think that, and real quick, Mega Dream and Inferno X have sort of stabilized. I don't want to, I don't want to say guaranteed
for
because,
now. Yeah,
right. Next week it's going to be down another 15%.
yeah,
But over the past probably 3, 4, 5 days, the price has started to, sort of stabilize.
yeah.
But heading into January, I'm excited for it. Nile Zero is the next January Japanese set that comes out January 23rd. We'll open up pre-order soon, and I'm hoping that we'll sort of kickstart a good month and a good start to 2026, very similar to November. So I'm not worried about uh, you know, going bankrupt. I'm not worried about losing my head with, falling Japanese prices. I think stay the course, uh, ride the release wave, at least for Japanese stores, and I think we'll be all right. So that's a little bit of a update on Zippy's Card Corner for December, kind of November as well, and what I'm expecting for January. So, yeah.
So something that's interesting, what we're seeing in the market, Logan, and I really want to kind of get your take on this, is the market dipped really fast, like out of almost out of nowhere. It
Yep.
feels like we were just riding this wave, and then all of a sudden, you know, we saw prices dip, like Inferno X, Mega Dream, like 20+%. Um, like Mega Dream was pretty much holding steady at around 130, 135,
Yep.
for example, and now it's at like 100. Some stores are even selling
Oh,
it for less than that, I
oh,
think.
dude. I mean, it dropped down to like $87 market price.
Gosh, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, man. And then so Logan, can you explain for a second? I know we talked briefly about margins,
Mhm.
but can you talk briefly how that affects stores? So like
Well,
and just a little bit of background into the whole transaction piece
right.
of
Yeah.
buying the cards from and getting them imported from
So,
Japan.
you know, little education section. For Zippy's Card Corner, back in November, we had Mega Dream release, November 28th. It was a Friday, I believe. Pre-orders opened up 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time. So around that time, I sort of, as a store, dollar cost average in to buying Mega Dream EX boxes from my Japanese supplier. So what that means is probably every week I'm checking Japanese prices. They go up, they go down. Japanese prices fluctuate a ton. And basically, I'll buy a handful of boxes, 10, 20 boxes at a time for each of those transactions. And by the end of the release date, I've sort of averaged out, buying low, buying high, sort of averaging out to what that market price will be come release date. And again, release date, we looked at around 135 ish, in terms of market price for Mega Dream. Well, the reason I believe things fell so much was because Inferno X really. Inferno X started off super hot. That Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia were the first boxes for the new Mega block for Japanese, and those started off around 85.90 on release. Inferno X was the next set, and it jumped up to 135
Yeah.
dollars for market price on release, and it was driven by the Mega Charizard. Right, that Mega Charizard artwork is maybe the best Charizard SAR I've ever seen,
Yeah.
and the market price of that card reflects several $100s. Right,
Especially the
um,
Japanese one, by the way.
for Japanese too,
Hmm.
exactly. Like you don't really see that kind of price for Japanese cards.
Hmm.
It's six, seven, $800 still. So anyways, there was a ton of hype around Inferno X, and the price even after release of Inferno X even went up. That doesn't usually happen either. Usually, the peak is release date, and it starts to settle. With Inferno X, it popped up from 135 to 150 within the month. So demand was super high for that box. It was a really hype set. Mega Dream rode that hype, I believe. It comes with Mega Gengar, right? Mega Dragonite, right? There are a ton of SARs that I think are cool, but it rode that Charizard hype, and it started off around 135 and 140 a box. Well, when you realize that, oh, Mega Dream isn't, it doesn't have the staple of like that Charizard that Inferno X had, and people are like, oh shoot, Inferno X is really high for Japanese too. So like both of those came down at pretty much the same rate, um, and they've settled closer to where I think they will be and are much more likely to be valued at. Um, if you look past Inferno X, though, Mega Dream or Mega Symphonia, Mega Brave, Team Rocket, Black Bolt White Flare, those boxes have actually stayed relatively the same. They've fluctuated within the realm of normalcy for Japanese market price. 2, 3, 5%. That's it. Some go
Mhm.
up, some go down. But these two, the last two, really fell off a cliff. So, anyways, how this affects Japanese shops and other online shops that sell Japanese is that you got to sell your boxes fast because
Mhm.
that roller coaster downward is going to make your boxes, people aren't going to want them because your price is too high, and you
Right.
can't actually adjust your price without losing money. And
Right.
Japanese margins are so slim to begin with that a 10% dip is boom, you just lost all profit because that
Yeah.
margin is always, you shoot for 10-15% because that's all it is. Um, Pokemon is a volume game. And so when those prices drop, it's like you got to figure out ways to adjust your prices. Maybe you start buying more to dollar cost average again as it, rides down. Um, but your goal should be to just sell, churn and burn is what I
Yeah.
call it. So, I think a lot of stores in the month of December probably felt that pain,
Yeah.
especially smaller stores where they're maybe not used to this kind of price drop. Newer stores, I think it was a tough month. Again, I think we're settling. I actually just bought more Mega Dream EX heading into January, so I'm hoping that I can offer better prices than what I was, so that it's more competitive. Um, and yeah, I think you go through these and they're learning opportunities, right? I think personally, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious about pre-orders for Nihil Zero, in January. I
Yeah.
think I'll hold off on buying as much as I did for Mega Dream. Now, ultimately, I did sell those for all profit and feel good about it. But I just don't see the hype for Nihil Zero as we did with Mega Dream. So I'm going to play it a little bit more cautious, a little bit more, you know, uh, conservative, and
Mhm.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. No, and I think you hit on something really interesting, and that was it's gonna hit small shops the hardest, right?
Yeah.
Because bigger stores that have been around for a while, um, you know, they've seen this before. They've prepared for it throughout the year, um, and also they've had enough time to build up capital throughout that
Yep.
whole the whole time. Versus new shops, I mean, depending on when you started, like all of the profit that you made over the last few months, I mean, a good chunk of that, depending on how you spent your profit, right? If you just put all of that into making your store bigger and you didn't put any away to for a rainy day like
Right.
now, then your shop could be in big trouble.
Yep.
Um, and I think just this, let's say prices stabilize, they stay dipped down, whatever it is, across the
Yeah.
board,
Yeah. Yeah.
15%, 20%.
Mhm.
Let's just say it stays like that. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. I still think that's enough for a lot of stores to close. Um,
Yeah.
Heading into 2026, that alone. Just because you got to remember, if prices fall 20% and then uh, our margins are 10-15% on Japanese cards and a lot of English too. um, you know Not only have you already lost money, but you're still holding on to the product that you're trying to get to sell at full market price. So yeah, I think it's interesting.
I mean, yeah, like it's riding the wave of pre-orders and new set releases is the name of the game, I think, for Japanese. I think you have to build up a lot of credibility for people to come back to you in your store for older Japanese sets. So, building hype and riding the wave of the new releases is sort of the key for a lot of stores. Now, it's also incredibly risky, right? Because, with
Yeah.
pre-orders, it's like the amount of boxes that I put down for Mega Dream, it's like I'm dropping, 10, 15 grand on boxes. And like I've built up enough credibility to where it's like I was confident that I could sell that, and luckily I did. But it's situations like this past month where the prices have tanked. That if you didn't have enough credibility and you made the mistake of buying too much, you could be out a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where I think Alex is getting at, where shops could close down, right? Like new shops where they're getting burned for a couple thousand early on. It's like, oh geez, that would be
Yeah.
enough for me to not try this anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, no, this was a weird month. I want to reiterate, I don't think we're crashing. I think
Yeah.
that we're settling. I think it's still an opportunity for stores, but we never said this was easy.
Mhm.
So head into it with optimism. Be cautious though. Be smart,
Yeah.
um, and just learn from your mistakes. That's what I can say.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask you this, Logan.
Mhm.
So, you know, we've had kind of almost an unprecedented year of growth. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and we're still seeing in some areas prices still pretty nuts. Like
Hmm.
Destin Rivals ETBs are still
Right.
like over double MSRP,
Yeah.
but it's been pretty nuts, right? So as a store is growing and selling products and getting more customers, how much preparation do you think stores should go into um, with preparing for a rainy day, like what we've been through the
Good
last
point.
month? Like, how much of your profit should go into making your store bigger versus putting some cushion back to where maybe you don't have to fire sell everything when the market dips?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think for new stores, I mean, I think you should be really limiting how much you buy, right? Like
Yeah,
a couple boxes, because that's, for those that don't have any sort of following on Instagram or social media, like, who's your audience going to be? Like, the whole point of content is create an audience of buyers, right? So if you don't have anyone to sell to, buying too much is already risky.
yeah.
So, start small. And with that being said, I mean, I think that like
Like there
rainy
are
day,
some store owners that are leveraging like credit card debt to like
yeah,
buy to
don't do
grow their store.
that.
Like I wouldn't recommend that, for example.
No, you should. I mean, yeah, I think you should be confident enough in your content and your direction and your motivation and your drive
Yeah,
to believe in yourself enough to where it's like, no, I'm okay with just buying a couple boxes. I'm okay with it being slow. That's the
right,
point. Like,
right,
it's a long game, you know.
right.
You're not going to see overnight success. Some of you will, but those are the very few, and there are some weird
Mhm.
factors in there
Yeah,
that it's like, a luck is a lot is involved. So, but most of you, it will take you months, right? Like myself, I started my store a year and a half ago, basically, back in August. I didn't have a single sale
yeah,
for like 3 months, and then I sold one, and then it was quiet for another 3 months. So, like, you got to really want it. But I think if you do, you should be okay with starting small and growing slowly. But back to the question about how much I think you should own in terms of a rainy day fund. Um, I mean, I think you should be able to basically average out all your boxes that you buy. So
mhm,
if you buy at the peak, right? If you buy $1,000 worth of boxes at the peak, and then they've dropped to 500, and they've sort of stabilized there, and you can't sell. Overall, your order, by the way, all your boxes, you should, I think, have enough to be able to drop another $1,000 in more boxes, to be able to average out that cost down a ton. Because the goal is like you want to be competitive with other, with the market at least.
right.
Um, especially as small businesses that don't have loyal customer base, you're not going to get people that are paying over market price for you. You haven't earned that. And
Right.
even then, it's like that shouldn't be your goal, especially when you're selling Japanese. So, uh, eh, I mean, honestly, at least double, how much you have tied up in your store. But I also think that you should have money that you should feel able to like capital to go in and make some risky moves that you're betting on, right? Some high bets. That's what I felt like for Mega Dream, right? I said that I spent like 10 to 15 grand on Mega Dream. That was a risky bet.
Yeah.
But how the past couple months had gone, the past couple of releases had gone, it's like I was confident in myself and my content and my brand that I knew that I could do this.
Hmm.
Um, and so, but I didn't, that wasn't betting at all, right? I
Right.
still had a lot of money that capital that I gained from the past couple, several months, to be okay with dropping that kind of money on new boxes. I don't know. That's sort of like a very general answer. I don't have a specific one. What about you? What do you think?
Well, like, do you think that, um, like, someone bought, let's say someone bought, a couple cases of Mega Dream, right before the dip happened.
Yeah.
Do you think those stores should sell, just
Hmm.
go ahead and sell it at a loss, to where at least they could have capital to buy the next set and try to, like you said, average out the cost more?
I,
Or do you think that they should hold them? Like, maybe you just hold them and until they, and hoping that the market goes up again.
I mean, it depends on your situation. You should not be tying up all your money into a single set. Like,
Right.
if you did that, then that's a mistake, and you need to
That's a
learn from
mistake.
that.
Yeah.
If you don't have any more money to spend on the next set, then that's where it's like, you know, as a new owner, new store where you're just trying to get sales, like, maybe cut your losses, maybe sell it all and get more capital. Because if you don't have any more capital, how are you going to keep up? Right.
Right.
That's why I said it's so important for the Japanese shops to keep up with the pre-release schedules and pre-orders and things like that. You ride that release schedule.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, you're going to struggle. And typically, sets that come out, they settle, right? The
Right.
prices are as high as they'll be at release. So if you bought at release and you weren't able to sell before the next one, odds are you're not going to see prices go up for a long time, right? At that
Hmm.
point, those are investment pieces.
Yeah.
And if you are a store that is able to hold and continue to buy healthy amounts of the next set, then hold for sure. No need to fire sale because prices do fluctuate.
Yeah.
Um, and get more capital and then maybe reinvest that capital elsewhere to fix some of the prices of your old sets. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
it, as a new store, you should not be doing that. You should not be investing all your eggs into a basket of a single set. If you did that, you know, maybe it's time to get rid of your basket, right? Maybe you do fire sale it.
Yeah.
But those are my thoughts.
Yeah. No, I think those are good. I mean, I think it's the rule of thumb I would use is, first of all, definitely don't spend any money that you don't have. Okay, so don't
Yeah.
put everything on a credit card or something that you're intending on. Hey, I'll just, you know, uh, make 20% of my money, and then that'll give me enough to pay off the credit card. Don't do that. Um, I would say, yeah, if you're gonna put a lot of money into a set, make sure that one, you have enough money left over to where if you, uh, let's say you don't make any money on what you just bought, at least you have enough to pay for a full month's expenses, and plus enough money left over to get the next set that comes out in case you don't make any money on um, the set that you just purchased. That's
Yep.
what I would say. Um, and by the way, especially with Japanese cards, pre-orders are a great way to leverage, um, how much you buy. Okay, if you get so many orders, in the form of pre-orders, chances are people aren't going to cancel those. I'd say 90+% of those are going to go through. Um, so I think that's a great way to make sure you don't take too much of a loss
Well,
on boxes you buy.
and depending on how you've structured your store and your policies, like I don't allow cancels on pre-orders.
Hmm. Some
I
stores don't.
Yeah, because like the way that I pre-order is I buy the boxes ahead of time and then I open up pre-orders. And so, like I've already bought boxes. I've already put money into it. And so,
Mhm.
I'm using like my own money to fund that. And so, uh, I just don't allow cancels for pre-orders.
Mhm.
If you want to cancel, wait till release day, and that policy is gone. I allow cancels for if I haven't shipped it yet. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agreed. So that's sort of I think that dives into a lot of I think sort of struggles that businesses are facing right now.
Mhm.
Especially for Japanese stores. I want to get your take on how your has performed, because I know that we were both Pokemon card shops, for those that don't know. Zippy's
Yeah.
Card Corner, Poke Legends, TCG. I focus a lot more on the international market versus Alex and his store focus a lot more on English. And English has seen some interesting moves as well. Curious on your take on what you've seen with your business and how it's sort of related to what we're seeing with the market.
Yeah, I mean, there's dips in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Phantasmal Flames being one of the biggest ones. I mean, it had from release, it's seen a massive dip. And then there are other sets too where we're seeing big dips on like Surging Sparks, Twilight Masquerade. Now, some of those have to do with some of the reprints that we've had, but I think it's more than that. I think that um, I think it's this weird combination of how weak a set Phantasmal Flames was, the new printing facility that was announced in North Carolina. Like there's going to be like some 866,000 square foot facility, something crazy like that. That's going to start printing more cards starting in 2027. So I think that perception is affecting the market. I
Yeah.
do think the holidays are a contributing factor too. I think there are a lot of people that you know they spent a lot of money on presents for their family and things like that, and um, they don't have a whole lot left over to buy Pokemon cards. And there are a
Yeah.
lot of and parents generally won't buy Pokemon cards for their
Right.
um, for themselves or for their kids on for Christmas. So I think all those factors are at play. But I am definitely feeling it at in my store. Sales
Sure.
definitely dipped. And like I said, I think Ascended Heroes is going to be the true test of how things are going to go forward. I think if the market starts to go back up with Ascended Heroes, then I think it was probably a temporary dip because of all those factors I just mentioned. Um, but time will tell. I'm excited for either direction. I really am. If the market continues to dip and this isn't temporary, then it creates a whole land of opportunity to grow the socials, get better with YouTube. By the way, and then we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then hopefully, the end game would be to get distribution. That would be, you know, that would be awesome as well. So
Mm-hmm.
those are my initial thoughts.
All right, makes sense. Cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. Now, you mentioned growing our socials. So,
yeah,
uh, quickly reflecting back on 2025, Alex and I both went super hard on Instagram and short form content.
yeah,
Instagram's a great platform to market yourself as a business, basically create an audience of buyers. And I think we nailed it. The growth that both of us saw, and both of our social media presence as well as how it affected our business was awesome. It was huge. I think both of us though have considered what's next, in the social media strategy. And I think we've both landed on YouTube and long form being sort of what we want to see more of from out of both of us heading into 2026. Alex,
yeah.
you want to talk a little bit about your thought process about YouTube, and sort of what it is that your goals are for it, and anything else?
Yeah, so talk, just to kind of give some context for a second. I've been posting consistently for about 18 months now. And for the vast majority of that time, okay, vast majority, I was getting like less than 1,000 views per video.
Sure.
Um, and it took a very long time to get proficient at creating content on Instagram. Like I severely underestimated how hard it was to create good content. Um,
Yeah.
it's very
It's
hard,
hard,
and
man.
it's very extremely freaking hard. And part of that was from all the new stores and content creators that got into the space in the last year because
Yep.
of all the
Competition's high.
because of the giant hype train that's been Pokemon cards this last year.
Yep.
That's part of it. So it got very hard. Like, and forget learning like all the different tools that go into content creation, like Canva and CapCut, and
Yeah.
AI tools to help you create scripts, and just getting better with speech. Quite frankly, just getting
Sure.
better with talking in front of the camera takes time. And now with YouTube, that's sort of the branch that we're getting into. We're making that, both of us, a huge goal for 2026.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels like I'm starting over almost. I've made a few videos already. They did not do that well, and I think that this sort of this learning phase, if you will, has kind of started over with YouTube. But I
Yeah.
do think, growing a successful YouTube channel, I think that's like a separate branch in of itself that will that's going to grow your store. Its own separate audience. I feel like and it sort of creates that sort of stickiness that helps build your brand. So I'm super excited.
Yeah. No, I feel similarly. On Instagram, it's like I grew from 500 followers to over 20,000 in 7 months. I feel like
Insane.
I'm right. I pinch myself every single time I say that. I feel like I've learned a ton, and I feel like I'm pretty comfortable and confident in my short form game. If you could call it
Yeah.
that. Um, However, we've talked about it before on this podcast. I think that short form is, sort of a weird relationship with your audience. YouTube and long form, I think, is a lot more stickier, right? You have a lot more of a loyalty is a weird word to use because they're just viewers that enjoy your content, but you're showing a lot more of yourself and
Right.
your deeper thoughts and your opinions, and you're not limited to just 90 seconds. So, you're not trying to whip out some fast action graphics and
Right.
hooks and things like that. No, you're slowing things down. You're giving your honest take about Pokemon, the market, your business, and insights that you're experiencing. I think there's an opportunity for to build your brand even more with long form, and I think that I'm excited to do that. I think that there's a lot to learn. 100% agree with what Alex just said. I think we're basically starting over, right? Because just because I have 20,000 followers on Instagram doesn't mean that all of those 20,000 are going over to YouTube. In fact,
Right.
I'll give you some transparency. Whenever I post a YouTube video, and I've posted a couple over the past 2 weeks, I'll post them on my story, and 30 or 40 people will click on my link out of the 20,000 followers. And it's like I only have like 200 subscribers. Compared to other, small businesses that have, 1,000 plus 5,000, whatever. So I'm excited for it. I think I'm already in the weeds of how to create content, and things like that for YouTube. I think it's going to be fun. I think that the direction I want to take my YouTube channel is basically, really still target, the average Pokemon card collector. That was the target audience that I made for Instagram, because I don't want to be shilling, my business all the time, for people that are constantly aware of my business. I want to be making content for the general audience of Pokemon card collectors, and In the event that they make it to my video and they see a call to action where they can go buy, I think there's a higher chance of conversion, if they're just the average collector. So making content for them and not necessarily 100% tied to my business and content creation, I think is sort of what I am aiming to do. And every single video, I'll still tie in the fact that I am a business. I do sell Pokemon cards and try and, finagle that relationship between the two, perspectives, a collector versus my business in every single video. And hopefully, over the next couple of months, we'll get better at that. The hooks will be
Yeah.
better. The thumbnails and titles will be better because we don't have to worry about that for short form, really, at all.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. My goal for 2026 is probably not ambitious enough, but 1,000 subscribers. I think I could bump that up to 5,000, 10,000. But I want to be conservative because YouTube is a different beast.
Yeah.
And I think that we're gonna give it our best shot, but we'll see.
Yeah. It really is a different brand of content, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like with the Instagram, like people are doing this, right? People are just
Mhm.
scrolling,
You're just scrolling, yeah.
and you have to figure out a way to get your message out as fast as possible, and to
To grab their attention within the first 3 seconds.
right, grab their attention immediately, right? Um, and using cuts and visualizations to kind of keep them engaged. And with YouTube, it's almost like you're telling a story almost.
Yep.
Do you feel that way too? You're kind of, and it really does give the viewers, and this is kind of why um, it's almost like its own different branch of content, and that's like you're giving viewers a chance to really see what you're like. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like your own personality, your own, um, your own like, I guess it's more than I feel like on Instagram we're talking through a script versus
Sure.
on YouTube it's like we're talking with a real person almost.
100%.
Does that make sense, sort of?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, one of the big skills that I hope to really hunker down and try and master, in the first couple months of 2026 with YouTube is storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Being able to talk about a topic freely and with charisma, my personality, my opinions, and
Mhm.
uh, all of that combined to be able to tell a story from start to end, to compel the viewer to watch all the way through and to stay curious. Like those are all things that it's the biggest skill that I want to accomplish, for YouTube and just content creation skills for, as a whole. So I think that's super key. It's completely different, like you said. Short form, you're reading off a script line by line, and you can do that for YouTube. I just think that, with the way that you and I have talked about how we intend on creating content, I think more raw, more opinions, more of our personal takes, and being able to do that in a smooth, coherent way that drives curiosity and wants the viewer to watch more. I think that's the goal. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Guys, talking on a particular topic and not going off subject too much for 10, 15 minutes is freaking hard.
Yeah.
Like that skill that certain content creators have, like Nostalgianomics, like that is
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot more respect for content creators that can talk and a coherent manner for 10, 15 plus minutes straight, without stopping. It's hard, and just like with Instagram, how we've taken a while to get proficient at that. It's taken us months of posting and trial and error and research to with how we script, the hook, trial reels, things like that. Everything that goes into to getting better at short form content. I think we're gonna have to go through that again with long form.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I can't
me too,
wait.
man. So, we've talked about sort of the end of 2025, talked about heading into 2026, talked a little bit about, where our businesses are right now and sort of, what we're expecting over the next couple of months, as well as talked about sort of our growth through Instagram and sort of our goals for 2026 for YouTube. Um, should we talk about some Pokemon?
Yeah, I mean, so I think this kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with the market, but there is a new set, new Japanese set
Yeah.
that's coming out soon. You know, do you,
It's called
it's head
Municus Zero, but
right, and it's
the
headlined by Mega Zygarde,
yeah,
correct? Now we're gonna get more reveals coming up.
yeah.
Hopefully within, what do you think? Next couple weeks, probably.
Well, I think that let's see,
Comes out January 30th.
January 23rd. So we're still about 4 weeks away. Um, and so I imagine, the secret rares will all be revealed the week before or the week leading up to the release.
Okay.
Our main set will be announced sort of, January 9th-ish, about a week before. Um,
Yeah.
so, like, I think we'll be seeing a lot over the next couple weeks. Now, do you have a take on Nile Zero? So I'll give you quick context. Um, Munich Zero is the official Japanese name of this Japanese set. However, because of how sort of Legend ZA, the context of that and Mega Zygarde and its attack, Nihil Light, uh, Westerners and English speakers have sort of rebranded Munich Zero to being Nile Zero. So that's the set name that we will continue to use, leading up to it and past it. But if you see Munich Zero, that's where that comes from. Do you have your take on Nihil Light yet at all?
Well,
Or Nihil Zero?
It'll be interesting to see the other, uh, secret rares
Yeah.
that are in Nalzir. But you know, Mega Zygarde, I've never really heard of that being a big fan favorite to
No.
a lot of collectors. Um, so I mean, it really could be interesting to see what happens with, you know, the Pokemon market in general, and then with Now Zero. I mean, it's very possible that set doesn't do well.
Yeah.
Um, so it'll be interesting. That's all I had to say. I
Yeah.
think that hopefully Pokemon puts in some other cool headliners in Now Zero, because
Yeah.
if not, I think it could be definitely a weaker set. Because on the Japanese side of the house, right?
Yeah.
Inferno X, Mega Brave, Mega Symphonia, Inferno X, Mega Dream have all been strong sets.
Yep.
I think with Inferno X having the Oricorio as a card that you can pull and not a promo like it is in the English UPC, I think that was a huge bonus, and it made it into a decently strong set,
Sure.
in my opinion. But if the market does continue to dip and Nile Zero, if there's not anything else besides the Mega Zygarde, I do think that could spell trouble. And I'm definitely going to be careful with how much I order of Nile Zero,
Yep.
As of right now, assuming
Yeah.
there isn't anything else revealed.
So I feel similarly. I think that I've talked about it before, this idea of like a nostalgia bubble. If you really look at every single set over the past year and a half, we didn't really see a set that didn't, lean heavily on nostalgia. Pokemon that were nostalgic, people that were, Pokemon that were fan favorites or had a theme about it that was a fan favorite. Since Stellar Miracle, Stellar Crown, in English, way back in 2024, sort of September-ish. And ever since then, Surging Sparks, Prismatic, Journey Together, Destined Rivals, Black White Flare, all the other sets, right? Every single one of these has had some sort of nostalgic factor in it. Nile Zero, for Japanese, as far as we know, might be the
Yeah.
first one that does not have something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because technically, Mega Zygarde is a completely new Pokemon. Zygarde didn't have a Mega form before Legends ZA, so I
Right.
think we will see a lot more Legends ZA sort of influence in this set. I mean, we're already seeing it with some of the trainers that have been revealed, right? We're already seeing some Lumio City trainers and things like that. So I think that, and Mega Skarmory just got announced. So, like, I think there are some Pokemon here that are going to be completely new and fresh, and they're not going to be driven entirely by nostalgia. And I think that that will play a factor, right? I think that
Hmm.
the demand will be weaker. I think kind of what I said, from a store perspective, right? Like I'm going to be a little bit more conservative with pre-orders for Nile Zero than I was for Mega Dream. Um, doesn't mean I'm, quitting Japanese and, stopping pre-orders entirely. No, I think we'll still do fairly well in January. But I think that Nile Zero will be a somewhat of a weaker set. And it will inf- I think will emphasize the settling of the market, right? There will finally be a set that isn't, as far as we know, maybe things change. There will finally be a Japanese set that isn't, super hot from the get go. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. We have a couple weeks before it releases. I think pre-orders will, like, I'm already seeing pre-orders, and I'll give you a heads up. The prices are a little bit lower than Mega Dream, so Japanese is already factoring in, that this could be a lesser set. At least in
Hmm.
terms of the starting market price.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll have to wait and see. Pre-orders will open up probably within the next 2 weeks or so on Zippy's Card Corner, and you know, once that happens, the marketing and content creation kind of switches to that pre-order and that release. So keep an eye out for that. But that's my honest take as of right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think it's likely that the Pokemon card market is going to dip more, with how I think Nile Zero will turn out.
Yeah,
But with Ascended Heroes, the Ninja Spinner, whatever the English set of that's going to be, and then Storm Emeralda, whatever
yeah,
the English set. I mean, this could really rebound and go in the complete opposite direction.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
2026. I mean, again, it's the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, and
yeah.
we already know that we're going to get some sort of celebrations esque set, at
Hmm.
some point in the year, that will rebound that nostalgia factor that I was just talking about. And, throw in some Mega Rayquaza, throw in some, Mega Greninja maybe. And you're going to have people that are craving some of these Pokemon, if they do the artwork justice. So, things could be very different in 3-4 months, especially that will also be when Ascended Heroes has been out for a while, where booster bundles are finally coming out, and
Hmm.
hopefully the printing machines are turned on and ramped up, and we can finally start seeing a lot of product. Maybe
Yeah.
that will sort of be when we can reassess sort of the market conditions and scalpers and things like that.
Because Ascended Heroes could be Prismatic Evolutions 2.0,
Yeah.
right? I mean, just think of how many flipping pools are in Ascended Heroes.
Yeah, a lot.
You have the Mega Charizard, you have Gengar, you have all the Dragonites,
Yep.
you have the Pikachu, you have
The
the Team Rocket's
Feraligatr,
Mewtwo,
Meganium.
the Feraligatr, the Meganium,
Yeah.
the Emboar. I love the Emboar.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on and on, dude. I mean, that's gonna be insane.
It's gonna be a hot set, I think.
Yeah, and then there are some store owners. They're talking about allocations, the initial allocations for Ascended Heroes, by the way, and they are terrible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're in a volatile time, man.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're gonna be a little bit cautious about pre-orders.
Yes.
Uh, how do you think Ascended Heroes will go for you?
I think Ascended Heroes will be Well, depending on how much I get of it.
Yeah.
I think Ascended Heroes in particular will go really well,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning. Um, but yeah, definitely got to be careful with Now Zero. I think I'll probably do pre-orders, and then I might order some, a few on top of that.
Sure.
Um, but I don't know, and this is just my prediction, right? Nobody knows for sure, but I think things are going to continue to fall until around the release of Ascended Heroes.
Sure.
I think that's when I think things will start rebounding when we hit Ascended Heroes.
Yeah.
Because because there are some sets that are seeing a dip that are going to get closer to out of print. Like Twilight Masquerade
I
is a
know.
great example. It's in a huge dip right now, but as we get closer to I think May of 2026, that's when the 2-year cycle is up for Twilight Masquerade. And then
Okay.
Surging Sparks is just a few months away from that. So,
Yeah.
which is another one that's dipped. I mean, there are other sets that are still strong.
Yeah.
Destined Rivals, Prismatic, um, uh, the Mega set is still
Mega
pretty
booster.
strong.
Yep.
It's really just Phantasmal, Surging Sparks, Twilight Masquerade, and then probably White Flare over Black Bolt. Black Bolt's still pretty strong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be an interesting year regardless. I'm excited for it though. We got content creation on one half. We got, improving Pokemon sales and growing the business on the other. I think we're both in a position where we're gonna have a lot of fun this year.
yeah,
And crossing our fingers that, the market goes a certain way to where maybe distribution opens up and, by the end of, this time next year, we could be in a lot better of a mood.
yeah.
But anything else that you want to chit chat about before we, hop off the call this time?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was our first live stream, so please bear with us. Please consider subscribing to the
Yep.
channel. We think we're gonna do these live streams on each other's channels, and continue to do this. And if you like this content, please let us know. Any critique, we welcome that as well. So
Definitely.
yeah, with that, thank you for tuning in. Catch you guys later.
Sounds good. See you.